Previously on
After a
board.
very, very successful and insightful book called Lolly Jackson, When Fantasy Becomes Reality, we've been waiting, I think it's 3 years now, Ian?
Yeah, around there.
The man who,
2010.
the man who allegedly killed...
3rd of May 2010.
There we go. There was such nearly 4 years. The man who allegedly killed Lolly Jackson, George Luca, fled the country and has now been extradited back to South Africa. Now, one of the co-authors of the book called Lolly Jackson, When Fantasy Becomes Reality, is the very well-known Mr. Peter Piegl.
Hello, Pete.
Pete, how's it going?
How you doing?
How you
Thanks for
doing?
having me on the show.
No, listen, it's great to have you. I suppose, Pete, you must have been quite, it sounds a little macabre, but you must have been quite excited that George Luca was coming back to the country.
Yeah, we were very excited. You know, the thing is that it's been dragging on for a long time. As you mentioned, it's almost been 4 years. And, you know, we'd heard rumors that he was coming back and then nothing happened. And we thought, you know, this is just going to get shoved under the carpet and there's never going to be injustice. And when we heard that he was actually coming back, I mean, that was an amazing revelation.
So they've the Cypriot High Court has finally overturned his appeal, saying that he can't be extradited. He's come back. They've postponed his case now to to next week, 18th of Feb, so that he can get himself a lawyer. What does this mean, Pete? Because, I mean, you've done extensive research into this this murder of Lolly Jackson and the backstory to it. Just give us a bit of a brief background as to who this guy Luca is. I mean, what is he? Is he head of the mafia here? Is he part of an underground thing? Like, what's the story with him?
The deal with George is that he actually met Radovan Krejcir in prison. Radovan had just arrived in South Africa and he got picked up on a Interpol red notice or red flag. And they shared a cell together, and George impressed Radovan with his ability to organize things. Like, he got mates to bring them, you know, special meals that they had over dinner and all that. So he convinced Radovan that he was, you know, a guy that could get things done for him. And the two of them became friends. And then Radovan did use him for various jobs. Luca himself was always just a petty criminal and thief. From what you know, we've pieced together, he used to deal in stolen items and whatnot, and you know, that's one of the charges he's out for now. But then he got involved with allegedly doing money laundering for Radovan, and you know, just kind of grew from there, and he became someone who, you know, he was a nobody before, and then he became this well-known figure. And Lolly, who wouldn't even given the time of day before now, kind of had to deal with George. And then Radovan Radovan decided that, you know, he wasn't keen on maintaining that friendship because allegedly George was a drug addict. And Radovan felt that he was more of a liability than anything else. So, you know, that friendship kind of dissipated at that stage.
Peter, I mean, it's an incredibly entangled mess. But I mean, this morning, were you at the court? Have you seen George? Are you able to get close to him and even speak to him?
No, I wasn't at the courts, but my co-author Sean Newman and our other co-author Karen Morn were at the courts. And apparently, he's lost a lot of weight. He's very clean shaven and he's trimmed down quite a bit. But I would imagine that's, you know, being in prison kind of does that to you.
Now, the thing about it is, I mean, yes, he's here predominantly for the murder trial in a way of Lolly Jackson, but he's also been charged with fraud, drug dealing, etc., etc. And surely the powers that be, the police, are now going to try and get more information to try and finger Radovan Krejcir.
Well, that's the thing. If you look at the time of it, I mean, you know, Radovan's obviously been charged, and there are all these allegations against him, and it's just interesting that, you know, George has been extradited right at this moment because obviously he'd make a very interesting witness because, you know, there are all these allegations floating around, like in the affidavit that the South African Revenue Service put together. There were allegations that Radovan loaned George 3.7 rand, but it was actually to do with money laundering. So he would loan George the money, and then George wasn't able to repay, obviously. But what he'd do is he'd pledge certain movable items to Radovan, to kind of offset the loan amount. But as it turns out, those were Radovan's items in the first place. So, on paper, it was like it was a loan, and I'm paying it back, but it really wasn't. It was just a way of shifting money around.
Peter, to just move on from the Lolly Jackson side, and it seems that they're all sort of intertwined with Radovan Krejcir. Krejcir still in prison. There must be massive security around him. There seems to be so many, for a want of a better way of describing it, law people, police people who sort of owe Krejcir something somewhere along the line. It must be very tough to try and make sure that this guy doesn't all of a sudden break free.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously has a history of doing that exact kind of thing, having fled from the Czech Republic and then Seychelles and all the rest of it. So, I would imagine security would be a major concern. And then allegedly, there's not going to be a hell of a lot of security around George. That's what the Hawks are saying. They're like, he's not going to be treated any differently, and there's enough security at the prisons. So that I found quite interesting.
I also am amazed that I'm just reading the story here, and it says, allegedly, George Luca phoned crime intelligence boss Joey Mabasa and confessed to killing Jackson shortly after the murder. Do you think that's going to come up in the trial?
I think that has to come up because it has been a point of contention before. But then again, there was only that one allegation. George himself had said, listen, I've never confessed to actually physically killing Lolly. That information we obviously getting from Joey. So, where does the truth lie between those two very opposite?
So, Pete, you must be licking your lips at this stage because there's got to be a follow-on book in the offing here. There has to be.
There's so much information, but the other exciting thing is that we've got a movie in the pipeline. So, director, producer, writer John Barker, who did 31 Million Reasons and Bunny Chow, he's actually bought the rights to do a film based on the book, and it's in second draft phase, which I've read, and it's exciting. It's really very emotive.
As Sasha quite rightly said, it's almost macabre, the sense of kind of fascination that we all have with this, because there are such high-profile people, and you're almost nervous to kind of talk about it for fear of repercussion. But I mean, it's gripped the nation, and it's something I think that next to Oscar Pistorius probably is the biggest story in the crime world for a long time.
Yeah, we constantly amazed at how popular the story's been. I mean, since the book has come out, it's just consistently sold. Even in the last 6 months, it's still a consistent seller. And that just goes to show that people are just fascinated with this topic. They're fascinated with the man, and his appeal kind of cuts across all genders, races, language groups, all demographics.
Jeez, I tell you.
Incredible.
It's an incredible story. Well, Peter, I mean, we're going to follow it, from the local media on this side. But, if something big transpires, we'd really love to have you back on the show.
Yeah.
I'll give you guys a call immediately. Don't you worry about that.
Thanks, Pete.
Awesome, Pete. Look after yourself, my friend, and thanks for your time.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Pete.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Bye. It's scarily fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't it?
It's exactly what I said. It's kind of, you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I know.
But you can't not, because it's just, there's so much happening here. It
seems unbelievable. Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, it seems actually, this is what you read about, or you watch something in the 1950s and 60s of New York. This now all of a sudden is happening, not more than 15, 20 kilometers away from us.
Exactly.
Wow.
The book which Peter co-authored is called When Fantasy Becomes Reality. It is available. It has been for a while now, about Lolly Jackson. So go check it out for yourself if you want to read a good story.
All right.
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time.
Beautiful.
Gears with Sasha Martinengo on bulls.co.za.